this? I went, okay then. So you should know that I'm allowed to speak from my own mind with Yarnspirations, so I'm allowed to have my own opinion even if it's not a great one. But Bernat Patchwork came out and I looked at it, I'm like, okay. So if you don't know, I am not forced to say anything about a Yarnspiration product. So even if I don't really love it too much, I'm allowed to say that I don't love it. So I saw this online and I'm like, okay, Bernat Patchwork, okay, there's some great colors. Okay, we'll give them a check for that. And I'm like, okay, patchwork. And then the manager at my local Michael said, we have Bernat Patchwork. And I'm like, I want to see that in person because I'm seeing it online, but is it a cat's meow or is it more like the cat's box? So I went in like immediately to take a look. Bernat Blanket Patchwork. This yarn brings all the men to the yard. Hey boys, come and get it. So I pull it out of the box and I'm noticing that the size is big. And because I'm used to this of the original formulation, so I'm like, okay, so that's fine. And you have to give it the mustache tease. Okay, that's fine. It's Bernat Blanket. And I thought, okay, so what is it about this yarn that's making it exciting? Because I just don't see it other than the great colors. Again, checkbox for that. And so I said, fine, I'm gonna need some photography. So let me just grab one ball of 3 different colors. So this is called Teal Dream. So I couldn't even wait. I was in a stoplight on the way home and I pulled it out of the bag and I'm like, what is the weight on this thing? And how many yards is it? And it says 220 yards, 201 meters, which is the same as this one. And I'm like, well, how can that be when this is bigger? Okay, I might be a yarn ball size queen. And I thought to myself, well, what's different about this compared to this? This one here, I've already used some of it out of the center. So this one here, the original, is more dense, you know, like your host. And this one here is like a blown up cake, squishy. And I thought, okay, so maybe they wrapped it a little bit looser so it's a little more puffier and etc. But then I went back to the mustache tease. This feels different on my mustache versus the original. You know, you have to do it at least a couple times. And you realize that the formula of Bernat Blanket has been changed because this is much softer, like much softer than the original. And I thought, okay, so the reason why it looks bigger is that the yarn is softer. So I thought, okay, so we know from the past that Bernat Blanket, when the colors change, it's always this knot because the technology is in there. And I've been saying over the years, eventually Yarnspirations is gonna figure it out on when they change color on the dyeing process. So I thought, okay, I'm going to just hook my way through a ball and see what I think. So I decided to come up with this pattern on the fly because, you know, I'm brilliant. And I thought, okay, so I end up getting to a color change. And I was like, what is going on? And I realized that the color change, as I promised that Yarnspirations would eventually figure out the technology. Let me just stick my fingers in the hole here. The color change, here, the color change is now dyed right into the product. So we know that there's yarn knots and balls because yarn is not unlimited, but they have finally figured out the long stranding, the self-stranding, being able to transition the yarn on its own without the knot. And so I thought, oh my God, this is like amazing. I don't have to fight with these. So if you do end up with a knot, that's just because of manufacturing and whatever. So that's not avoidable. But then I got thinking to myself, so I keep my eye on my hole when it comes to this. So I pull from the center and I get that magic romper room hole, as my friend Kelly would say. And I noticed is that there's like this one part of the work that, oh my God, I'm gonna have a knot in the ball and I'm only gonna have a few feet of this one color. And I am stitching and I'm dreading. And then I get to that moment and I'm like, oh, maybe this is why it's called patchwork. Let me show you on the sample. totally has me addicted. It should be called Bernat Blanket Stitch Curious, because that totally has me curious on how it's going to work out. And I noticed right here, you'll notice that there's a blue strip that's just so ever small. So I thought they put a knot in the ball and they knotted it and all of a sudden started a new sequence, but it transitioned on its own. So it's part of the dye job of doing that. So you'll see stuff like that. See the yellow? Like that. It's just a little strip of it. So some of the strips are really quite large that you'll see, and others are just peppered in there to make it a really cool thing. So that was like a big check mark for me. You know what I thought, Oswaldo? If there was a knot ball in this product, is like, would you even notice? So if you do a weaver's knot with this stuff and cut it down really tight, you can really get away with it. But because the yarn has different lengths of coloring within inside the product itself, that even if they did cut the yarn and you had to restart the sequence, you would probably never notice, because it's called patchwork. And so I'm thinking this is actually a game changer for this kind of product, because usually what happens when they have the yarn and every one of the colors are the same length of yardage, when there's one that's not quite the length and they've had a trim and whatever and it goes out of sequence, for somebody like me, it makes me just, you know, sound the alarm of ADHD going off like big time, as well as my OCD and any other CDs that I have in my brain. So it makes me go manic. But this kind of product here would make me stitch in a relaxed format, so that even if there was a knot in the ball, So Bernat Blanket Patchwork, I would call it Bernat Blanket Stitch Curious, because it just makes me curious. And now this is the problem now with this yarn, is like one more row, because I want to see what's going to happen next. Is the next color going to be as long? You know, I might like long yardage. Or is it going to be a short one? Or is it going to be long again? Yay! So, Bernat Blanket Patchwork. There's a lot more to this yarn than you realize. Other great colors available too. Do you want to see a couple more? I bought them. I know, I didn't need it, but I had to have it. Shut up. My eyes are up here. It's so big. Where are you expecting me to hold the bottles? So this one here, look at the colors. Fun, ice cream oriented. What's it even called? I didn't even look before I filmed. This is Tropical Splash. Yeah, just add a little cocktail and a sippy straw and a martini glass, you're good to go. Love the colors of that. And then this one has me really intrigued as well. It kind of reminds me of a cloudy day. Let's take a look at what the color was. Nautical. So it kind of is that nautical feeling to it. My friend Karen would probably love this one. Again, hitting those nice colors. So what I decided to do on my sample strategy, I started with 2 rows of Bernat Blanket Original Off-White. I did 1 whole ball of Teal Dream, and then I did 4 rows of that original Bernat Blanket Off-White again, and now I'm starting my 2nd ball of here. So by using the linen stitch, you can get a lot of yardage out of these things to be able to have fun. And because it's meant to be patchy, it's fabulous, and it's a good way to hide the dog and cat hair too, because I definitely have a problem with that at my house. So all of a sudden, this product for me turns from like to yes. So just say yes to the yarn. Bernat Blanket Patchwork. Yeah, try it. Honestly, it's so soft. Just use your mustache and try it. Yeah, women have mustaches too. That's why they have spas, they can rip it off.